Now, as Nigerians debate whether electronic transmission of results will truly happen in real time, the controversy is no longer just political, it is now technical. On one side, Andrew Mamedu of ActionAid Nigeria argues that much of the anxiety around IREV is misplaced. He insists the platform has offline capabilities that are poorly understood and under-communicated, and that network challenges should not become an excuse for weakening transparency. On the other hand, former INEC chairman Mahmood Yakubu has been clear. While voter accreditation machines operate offline, internet connectivity is required at the point of uploading results to the IREV portal. So which is it? Can the system function meaningfully without real-time connectivity, or does the absence of guaranteed internet access create exactly the kind of vulnerability Nigerians fear? Well, to explain his position and to address the growing questions about what electronic transmission really means in practice and whether Nigeria's electoral system is being misunderstood, mismanaged, or deliberately blurred, I'm joined now in the studio by the country director of ActionAid Nigeria, Andrew Mamedu. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
Now, you said IREV has offline capabilities that are under-communicated. Can you explain precisely what functions operate offline and what absolutely requires internet connectivity?
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's go back a bit. Before the last election, 2023 election, we had an amendment in 2022. And in that amendment, accreditation was made compulsory. So before now, you could use the incidence form. So in 2022 amendment, it was made compulsory that you must be accredited. Up to the extent that if the beavers is not working, elections will be suspended until a functional one is provided. And these same beavers have the capability of accrediting all registered voters within that polling unit. It is the same machine that is used to snap the results and transmit the results to IREV.
Right.
Actually, so Charles, let me explain this a bit further. Actually,
as briefly as you can.
Okay, as briefly as I can. It is supposed to transmit it to 2 locations. So once the beaver snaps it, it transmits it to IREV 1. IREV is for viewing purpose.
Right.
Then there is the collation system, INEC collation system, that is supposed to be used for collation, right? And INEC regulation clearly stipulates this. Now, the argument that the Supreme Court held on to was IREV is not a collation system. But the lawyers of INEC did not go with the collation system that they have, which should also have the information. Right. So at the point of snapping, whether you have network or not, it's like my phone. It's like your WhatsApp, right? So your WhatsApp, once my WhatsApp is offline right now, once I turn it on, if somebody has called me right now, I will see the missed call. So once you take your information, you snap your information, you click send, it is retained in the memory that cannot be tampered with until you get to a point of network. So it can function with or without network. But as soon as it hits network, it then transmits and leaves the system automatically.
Right. Okay, let's take this systematically.
Yes.
Because you have said, I'll come to the WhatsApp analogy, but you've said that once a result is snapped and uploaded, it is stored in memory and can no longer be tampered with. Technically speaking, what is it that makes it tamper-proof? Is there encryption? Is there time stamping? Hash verification? What safeguards guarantee immutability?
Okay, so the beavers, the machine, has lots of safeguards built into it, including being geotagged. So the beavers machine meant for this location, for this particular studio, cannot function in the next studio. right? So you have an adjoining studio. It will not function there because it's been programmed to only function here. That is why once one beavers have a problem, they would have to ask for another one, which would then be reprogrammed for this particular purpose. Same with the information that has been uploaded in it. It is proven, it has been set up to the extent that you are not able to go in and then tamper with it. So you cannot touch those that have been registered there. You cannot touch those that have been accredited. It's simple. People have been accredited. You can as well go and tamper with them. You cannot tamper with those that have already been accredited, that have voted. So the same technology also protects the results that you have snapped and uploaded. So the same memory that keeps all of that. I think we need to be plain with the truth. If we want to go otherwise, but let's not go away from the truth, what the machine's capabilities can
but let me just pick you up on something, because you mentioned that you compared IREV to drafting a WhatsApp message offline that sends once connectivity returns. But unlike WhatsApp, election results determine something much bigger. Power. Is that analogy too simplistic for a system that carries constitutional consequences? Okay,
so Charles, India has a population of 1.4 billion. Their voting population is 800, 900 and something million. Now, the way they vote electronically and they send their result electronically, offline. So their system allows them, so the same thing like our beavers. So you bring beavers, which is geolocated for that particular location. Everyone casts their vote there, and all the results are uploaded on that same machine, and the machine is then taken to the collation center. So until it gets to the collation center, and across all the processes of doing this, you are not able to tamper with what is in the system.
Yeah, but you know, the argument that you're making is a reasonable one if you are in India. We're not in India, we're in Nigeria, which is why there's so much skepticism, so much mistrust, because this country has been riddled not only with corruption, but with weak institutions, with all kinds of things that affect the credibility of elections. So the question must be asked, if a result is captured and stored offline, but not yet transmitted, in the context of Nigeria, who has physical or digital custody of that device during that period? And what safeguards prevent coercion, substitution, or deletion before synchronization?
We had several conversations with INEC on this. And over again, they told us that these safeguard measures put on IREV is one of the strongest globally.
Yeah, but they've said a lot of things.
However, there was the glitch at the presidential level, which, of course, including ActionAid, we are calling them for an independent audit, and they should come back and tell us what happened. Totally, right? Now, we recognize that what is the challenge? Which is the lesser evil? The biggest challenge we have in our election is the manipulation of the results. So we have seen results that are cast in the polling units, and what gets released at the end of the day is different. And Charles, we have seen off-cycle elections happen, and we have up to 94% results transmitted on IREV. Same technology, same process, and same people. And those results you can rely on, you can vouch for them, basically. So if we can do that at those levels, then what stops us? So if we're looking at
that's a good question you ask. That's the question. What is it that stops us from doing it when it most requires, the confidence, to instill confidence in people? And that's why we're asking all these questions. Does the IREV system, because you seem to know a bit about it, which is why you made a public statement about it, does the IREV system create a verifiable audit trail showing exactly when a result was captured, when it was uploaded, and whether any alterations occurred in between?
The answer is yes. You remember the case of election we had that had to happen 2 weeks after, and they said they needed to clean up the machine to be able to use it for the next election. And of course, the politicians went to court and said, no, they have evidence because you cannot tamper with it. It has timestamp. All of those things are evidence that you cannot tamper with. And they said, okay, how do we upload these things and make sure that once we upload them, they are not tampered with? Now, they are not sure when it's uploaded, if it gets into a secondary system or a second system, and if it will not be tampered with at that level. But clearly, for the machine itself, it is it's proven and proved that it cannot be tampered with. If not, INEC would not have gone to court, or the politicians would not have gone to court requesting that should not be tampered with until they have shown evidence, shown the timestamp, and what the machine has got in its memory.
Right. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but to a lot of people, it will sound theoretical at the moment. This offline capability, which is actually a very encouraging thing that you're talking about, it should give people considerable confidence. But that offline capability, has it been independently stress tested in live electoral conditions across Nigeria's most connectivity challenged areas? Can you point to documented performance data to support that?
Bayelsa gave us 89%. That is data. Kogi gave us 93%. That is data. Imo gave us 94%. Those are evidence. And this is when it was not made mandatory to use it. So now we're saying that if it's made mandatory, the onus now lies
No, but was that offline capability?
both off and online.
Right.
So both off and online.
Right.
So worst case scenario is, could it be that it was the offline that gave us those 11 or 6 or 7% that we could not get 100%? But we got up to 94%. If we got up to 94% at those times when it was not compulsory, what happens if the law makes it mandatory for us to make use of it? We would then deal with all the surrounding issues that would have given us less than 100%.
Right.
I think that's where our theory is based on. And those in INEC, they've not come out to say otherwise. INEC has consistently said that they have the capability to transmit the results of all elections. However, we had issues with the presidential election, which we have asked for them to come back and report on us.
And what have they, up till now, no?
We are still asking them, we are still putting them under pressure. And of course, we expect INEC, for instance, to speak out more on these issues. I know they might be careful because, of course, they went today to defend their budget. They are careful in engaging this kind of conversation.
What did you make of that budget? 873 billion.
So their total budget for this year, it's 1.04 trillion naira,
Right.
a trillion naira budget. So INEC's budget keeps increasing. And of course, we're like election year, this is major election budget. So 830 something billion. And of that, about 210 or 208
is for technology.
Is for technology.
Right.
So if that is for technology, we are investing so much of the resources. 20% about 20% of the budget this year.
So you expect
technology.
Results.
We expect results. Right. We expect that we should maximize the technology and let it work for the people.
Right. Now, the Senate, let's move a little bit wider, because I know you've been following this quite methodically. The Senate restored electronic transmission, but remains silent on whether it must be real time. From a technical standpoint, because you've become our technical whiz kid in here, I mean, is real-time upload realistically achievable nationwide, or are we setting expectations that technology cannot consistently meet?
So I think when there is a will, there'll be a way. I think that's my take on that.
Right.
For us to talk about real-time for us is when you are connected to the internet.
Right.
Right? And if the Beavers is not connected to the internet at a particular location, so the polling unit is not connected to the internet, but it's in the memory, should be taken that once it gets into a network coverage area, then automatically the result is transmitted.
Right.
If we have established that the result is saved into the memory in the offline version, so as soon as it gets into an online version, or gets into online, that's what it transmits automatically into an online version, then the results just goes. So that shouldn't then be an excuse for us not to use the technology.
Yeah, but you know that many Nigerians fear that any delay between, and they have good reason to be afraid, given the experience they've had in the past, that any delay between polling unit declaration and IREV upload creates room for manipulation. Does offline functionality reduce that risk, or does it actually widen the window for human interference?
Charles,
it's the same question I've asked you before in a different way.
In a different way. Charles, let me ask you, let me respond this way. Which is a lesser evil? Leaving the result collation and calculation in the hands of individuals that over the years we have seen manipulation of these results, or trusting technology, which other countries we have seen done, and even in Nigeria we have used this technology, and we have seen that to a large extent it is giving us the results we desire. So which would you rather go for? I would any day reduce the human element. Let us reduce the human element. And we have done that in the accreditation. Years ago, we must use incident form. People use thousands of incident forms to manipulate the results. So now they know that they can no longer do that. So where they wait for us, or where they wait for you and I, is in the collation of the result. And we're saying no. Let us straighten that out. We have straightened the whole accreditation aspect out. Let's go to the result collation and straighten it out. And just to see, it does not just stop in transmitting it from the polling units to the collation center, because you have about four locations for presidential election. You have the polling units, you have the ward collation center, you have the local government collation center, you have the state collation center, and you have the national collation center in the case of presidential election. So all of these locations must be able to transmit the result once it is finalized electronically. I think that's our demand. And the good thing is that the House of Rep agrees with this. And we stand solidly behind it. So we're hoping that the conference committee, for the sake of Nigerians, participation is a right.
So what would you say to Nigerians now, because of this offline revelation that you've made? Should they feel more comfortable now, more confident in the system?
Okay, so tomorrow we are bringing some experts together,
right?
Legal experts, judges and all that, to look at the interpretation, the meaning of this, including possibility of going to Supreme Court. What would the Supreme Court do with this kind of the bill that has been passed? If for instance, if we go with that of the Senate, or we go with that of the House of Rep, what is the implications? So Nigerians will know. We will then come back and feed back to Nigerians detailed what it means and the implication. What Nigerians should do is, Nigerians should be interested. It is beyond having 30 governors in a political party. That is good. It is even it's of a higher stake than the tax bill or the tax acts that we currently have. This is determining who becomes my president, and if you perform well, we bring you back. If you do not perform well, but let our votes count. I think that's the conversation here. That's the real conversation here. It's not about, we just love technology. No, it's not about loving technology. It's about the right of the citizens to hire and fire.
Yes. And that should not be guaranteeing that their votes count.
Yes, that should not be tampered with. Yes.
Okay. Andrew, it's been great to talk with you and to see you again. Andrew Mamedu is the country director of ActionAid Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.